Welcome back, everyone, to Goody and Johnny Mo with the Movies. We are here with episode 25 tonight.
Is it 25?
It's 25. We hit a little milestone for ourselves. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about It Chapter 2. Just came out this past weekend. Johnny Mo and I had a chance to see this movie on Friday night. And we are going to let you know our thoughts. But before we get to that, our traditional drink of the night.
I am drinking a giant can of Negro Modelo poured into my giant glass, and I'm going to try and finish this whole thing before the end of the table.
I'm drinking a Blue Point Mother Pumpkin Ale, probably one of my favorite seasonals by them. No cinnamon sugar rim tonight, but that's all right.
I'm going to try not to spill this. I haven't drinking any of this yet.
Cheers. Thanks
Cheers.
everybody for tuning in and listening. So,
Quick shout out.
We got a shout out.
Quick shout out to friends and family of Goody and Johnny Mo with the Movies. I want to give a shout out to my friend Barbara at work, who I'm pretty sure is the person who gave me this It shirt, which I'm wearing for It Chapter 2, which I wore for It Chapter 1 when we did the review. I'm pretty sure this came out of a Loot Crate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exclusive type thing. So it's a little tight, but that's okay.
It's incentive, Chuck.
Yeah. It doesn't quite fit, but that is all right.
So I think our last episode, we did It Chapter 1. We did a little retro review going over the 2017 film. We told you our thoughts on that. 2
years flew by really fast.
Yeah, it was almost like 2 years, I think, to the day. I think it was like that first week in September also where the first movie came out. Similar movie experience when we went. There were definitely some...
Tons of kids.
Tons of teenagers and
making lots of noise.
Yeah, and that's a little annoying, I find. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? We might have done the same thing when we were younger.
No, I was quiet when I watched movies.
Really? Well, I was quiet too, but I was with a lot of loud people, so I was guilty by association.
No, I always went to enjoy the film. So, now John's thoughts on It Chapter 1 was he thought it was okay. You didn't think of what it was hyped up to be.
Yeah, and I think I have the same kind of feeling now. Just in terms of box office, I was reading. Chapter 2, I think, made 91 million opening weekend, which was actually less than Chapter 1. But not for nothing, I think I almost expected that because I think Chapter 1 was just, it made a lot of money. Incidentally, it completely blew away the competition.
Oh, yeah.
Like movies 2 through 10, every single one of those movies made less than 10 million at the box office, and in some cases significantly less.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think the box office giant was It Chapter 2. But then, you hear these people, the industry people saying, oh, well, they expected it to make more. Well, you know what? Get over yourselves. You made 91 million. You're easily going to make your money back. You're going to make a profit. If it's not a failure. If a movie doesn't make 100 million on its opening weekend, that doesn't mean it's a failure.
No, exactly.
So
especially for a horror film, and horror films don't always make that much money on an opening weekend.
Oh yeah, I even think they were saying this is the second largest horror opening ever, behind It Chapter 1. So you cornered the market.
Did it mention Halloween from 2018?
Well, not adjusted for inflation.
But a year inflation is not going to be that much. I mean, I'm just...
I'm talking about Halloween versus...
No, but I'm talking 2018.
2017.
No, Halloween last year.
Oh, you're talking about... I thought you were talking about the original Halloween.
No.
Oh no, I don't think the Halloween movie from last year made that much money.
I don't know if it made 100 million its opening weekend.
I don't think it would have. Now, and again, 1978 original Halloween, I'm not sure how much money that made opening weekend, but in the long haul, that was one of the most profitable movies ever made.
But when we went, the theater was pretty packed for us.
Theater was very packed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, one of the more packed premieres we've seen at the Save a Movie Theater.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so this time around, for those of you who have not seen this, we are going to be doing spoilers. Just want to let you guys know that up front. So if you're okay with that, keep going. If not, go watch the movie and then come back and give us a listen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So with this film, this mainly focuses on the adults, but one nice thing that they do in this film is that they do a lot of
They do
flashbacks.
flashbacks. Which is
The first film was completely focused on the youth, the kids,
children.
and now we get a little bit more of the adults. I found it interesting that with the opening, I felt like they all kind of got together rather quickly. Like within the first 15 minutes, we're at the Chinese restaurant and everyone's there.
Yeah, I also, and I think this might have been one of the problems I had with the book as well, is I could never exactly figure out how Mike Hanlon was able to really have everybody's phone number, because most of these people haven't talked to Mike Hanlon in decades. So how is he they've had no contact with him whatsoever, because they've kind of forgotten
Since they left.
they left, and they've kind of forgotten about everything, because that was one of the things they explained, is when you leave Derry, you kind of lose track of those memories. Mike Hanlon stayed in Derry, pretty much kept all his memories, but was able to on a dime just sit there and start calling numbers. I just don't know how he would have been able to have up-to-date phone numbers on people that he has never called in decades. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? If you're talking about the book, I can completely understand that. If you're talking about now, with the way social media is, that argument's out the window. Because you can
Okay.
easily find somebody who knows somebody who has that phone number and get it.
Okay.
So to me, nowadays, that makes perfect sense on how he could definitely get the phone numbers. But if you're talking about the book from the 80s, that might be a different story.
Yeah, and like I said, I read that book a long time ago. Maybe they explained that in the book, but I don't recall that they did.
Now, the opening of this movie takes place at the amusement park in current time, and it's basically, I'm pretty sure this scene in the movie is the opening scene of the book.
Yes.
Right,
Oh yeah. Well, I
so-
mean, not really an amusement park. Well, maybe it was. It was
like
a
a carnival.
festival.
Festival,
or carnival.
carnival,
Yeah. Right. Like one of those probably traveling ones.
Yes.
That they did for for a certain anniversary of Derry. Oh, and incidentally, so something I think we completely forgot to bring up in chapter 1, which is, and it's relevant in this movie as well, is that the entire time frame of the book versus the movie is completely shifted.
Has changed.
By like, I want to say almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So oddly enough, I think when they're kids, it's 87, I think we thought it was.
Yeah.
We were even able to.
Or 88 or 89, because they show the movies. No,
Yeah.
it's 88 and 89 because Batman's on the marquee
Right.
in when they're kids.
Yeah, and we have actually, made sure that all the movies on the marquees were time.
And they were all 100%.
And I was very surprised with Nightmare on Elm Street 5. I didn't think Nightmare on Elm Street
That was 89.
had 5 movies in the 80s. I would have sworn the 5th one was in the 90s. So we double checked that. But yeah, so incidentally, almost the way it looks is now, I don't know if this was just done on purpose to almost make the adult movie take place today, but it just so happens that the kid movie, chapter 1, takes place almost at about the time that the book was released.
Right.
So I wasn't sure if they were trying to play on everybody's nostalgia. So the people that kind of grew up reading it, which easily could have been teenagers into people in their early 20s. I don't think young children were reading that, but definitely teenagers and college kids and some adults. So those people were very familiar with that time, and exactly all sorts of entertainment, whether it be music or movies or books and stuff like that. So I think maybe it was a no-brainer for the nostalgic factor, because when they were
I agree.
things that took place in that time, they were showing music
music from that time
and
frame.
movies from that time period. So
No, you know what?
was it
I
a
agree.
coincidence? I don't know. I think they were aware.
I
of
think
what
that
they
was
did.
purposefully done to hit the nostalgia factor, but also to modernize the time, like you said, because they were going to do 27 years later, and that would have taken us into just a couple of years ago,
Yeah, and to me, I think I don't know. I feel like the modernization of it may have taken away from the story a little bit, only because I think the book took place when they were kids, like back in simpler times, where there were more unknowns. I think people were maybe a little bit more superstitious. I think kids were a little bit more afraid of the dark. So in the modern world, with all the scientific explanations to everything and all the unknowns, more unknowns being known, more, I would say, more devices be available today.
Yeah.
It's just a more, either computerized world or, an industrial
But
world.
even in the 80s, you're still talking that most of those devices still those kids didn't have access to because they were kids. They wouldn't have been adults.
Yeah, but
And
like back in the 50s, it would have been even more so, because I think the original book takes place back in the 50s.
late 50s, like
Yeah.
58, 59.
So it's a different, they were listening to different music and doing different things, it's not that it was, it's different, but it was simpler times. So I think making the movie more modern, I think could have taken away from the delivery of certain things. I think so it's almost like how would Stand By Me play today if it took place today? You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't play the same. It would be a different type of dynamic. It would be a different type of movie. These films that take place in the 50s and the 60s, they're a little different. So they did a little bit of a different spin on it. Did it work? I think we'll get into that.
Yeah. Just going back to the opening scene of the film, which I'm pretty sure this is the opening scene of the book too, where these two guys are together in this amusement park, or the festival that they've got going on, and then as they're basically leaving, these other guys
kind of beat the hell out of them.
rough them up, and actually takes one of them and tosses them over the bridge.
Now, was it the same type of scenario in the book? I don't remember.
I think what ended up happening was, I don't remember if you see that happen, or like they basically, like Mike Hanlon's arriving at. No, I think it does happen.
No, but I mean, I know they get beat up, but I mean, did they get beat up because they were just outsiders, or did they get beat up because they were, two gay guys?
Because they were gay. I'm pretty sure it was because they were gay.
Okay, in the book.
In the book, yeah.
I was curious if they did the same, or if they maybe did a little bit of an upgrade thing.
Yeah, no, I think it was because of that, and I think
very well could be.
It was similar because the one guy, I think his body gets found underneath the bridge, and obviously we see Pennywise and all that. So that to me was I thought that was a good start to the film.
And with all the red balloons, like the hundreds of red balloons, almost like floating low below the bridge. Pretty sure that was in the book as well.
That was I thought that was a really great shot.
Yeah.
Very, very well done there. And then we start to see their lives, and all the adults have basically grown up at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a little like private look at their life, but that never really gets discussed going forward.
What? It doesn't get discussed.
For instance,
like what they did afterwards.
just like what had happened with Beverly. Beverly's obviously getting physically abused by
She's in an abusive
relationship.
And that definitely was the case in the book. I remember.
Yes, and she ends up fighting back at one point and then leaving, and she does that in this as well. But all she does is she drops the ring off and she leaves. I'm pretty sure that guy ends up following Beverly and goes to Derry.
To Derry?
Yeah.
That I don't remember. That certainly could be the case.
And I definitely know that Bill Denbrough's wife does go to Derry. She follows him, and she gets captured by Pennywise.
And they probably just eliminated those aspects because it would have been too much because they only had so much time.
Yeah, 2 hours and 45 minutes is
enough
time.
Yeah, they had 2 hours and 45 minutes, but this is my same complaint from chapter 1. They would have had enough time to do more things if they quickened the pace a little bit. I think this movie was slightly faster paced because it was the adults were doing it, and they were like, I think the first movie was very much a little of a nostalgia trip and kind of very slow paced. This movie was slightly faster paced, but in my opinion, not fast paced at all. Again, I still think they could have done a lot more if they had quickened it up a little bit, and not quickened it too fast. Just instead of gone from a stroll, gone to a brisk walk. if that makes sense.
The one thing I was really happy that they brought into this film was the clubhouse, because the clubhouse was something that in the book gets focused on from time to time, where that was like their big hangout.
Yeah,
And you don't see that at all in chapter 1.
I do actually. I didn't remember the clubhouse too much from the book, but watching the clubhouse in the movie, it made it almost seem like it would have been really hard for that kid to build that himself.
Well, he
without
said,
any help.
but you heard what he said though. He said most of that was already down
Most
there.
of it was already.
He just like supported like the walls and stuff
Yeah,
like that a little bit.
But even
more.
still, like he's like a young, not to be mean, but he's like a young fat kid. He's not like a strong, able-bodied kid. I don't know how he would have been able to move anything on his own. Like almost like any of those logs, like you're gonna need 2 strong people, one on each end, to just put it any way you want.
Not necessarily.
I mean, he did it all by himself.
A little leverage, if he's got that analytical mind, that
Mhm.
mechanical mind, he's going to figure out a way to get that.
I mean, you assume. I guess you assume he does. I'm just like, I think it would have.
Well, he was into architecture, so I'm like, that was his thing.
Yeah, it just seemed a lot for him to put together. Like like someone doing that by themselves would take them all summer.
But in the book, what does he do? He builds a dam. Remember that?
Oh,
He builds a dam down in the barrens to kind of like siphon off some of the water.
Right.
So I don't know. I think I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But I had to say the way that they showcased the clubhouse was almost exactly how I pictured it in my head from hearing the book, and I thought that was really cool how they did that. The kids, I think I might have mentioned this at the end of our last review. But the kids, they used some de-aging technology on them to make them look from 2 years ago.
Because they have gotten.
Because they've definitely all grown up. And
yeah.
it's funny because if you listen to Jack Dylan Grazer, who plays Eddie Kaspbrak, his voice has definitely changed.
So they didn't film those scenes and save them for later.
No. So his voice is definitely different. And I feel like I want to say like they tweaked something with his voice. To make him still sound like he was from
I'm
a
actually
years ago.
a little disappointed in that, because this was obviously a 2-part story. This isn't like a sequel. This is really one movie broken up into 2. I think I would have expected them to have filmed those scenes back in the day and saved them. Because that would make sense. Because you're not filming any of the adults till later.
But I don't know if any of that was written. Like I don't know how much of that. I don't know if that was even written yet.
Yeah, but they should have planned for that. Just like Peter Jackson's trilogy. I think they did that.
They filmed it all back to back
in one long, ginormous, continuous shoot.
Yeah.
You're filming, Lord of the Rings Part 1, 2, and 3. You're doing It Chapter 1 and 2. You're going to do flashbacks. You already kind of know what you're doing, because again, you're adapting a book. It's not like they had to figure out what Chapter 2 is going to be.
No, I agree. That's something that they should have had the foresight to get some of those scenes ahead of time.
And that to me is just commitment. You got to have faith in your product. You got to have faith that you are going to get green lighted for a second film. You just got to put the commitment in there. And it's a couple of extra scenes, but at the end of the day, it probably costs more to get all those kids back and and just start over from scratch.
It was definitely more than
because all the locations. I know, but all the locations are the same. Even though it was a decent amount of time, they could have just filmed it all. I think it would have made more sense. So and that's that's the type of dedication that you need when you're gonna invest yourself. Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe does. They think forward. They plan it all out. They're not sitting there going, okay, we're just interested in this movie and making our money, and that's it. And hopefully we get to another movie. They know they're going to another movie, so they just do it all. So that's interesting, because I think you could tell that the kids were de-aged.
I don't think the only person that I saw that with really was Finn Wolfhard, who plays Richie Tosher, the young version. Yeah. Because if you look at his eyes and the glasses, it looks different. Like there was something odd when you looked at his glasses.
I even think that some of the kids might have even looked a little bit bigger.
The one that played
they did in the first movie, because when they age, not only did they age 2 years, their body grew a little bit.
The kid that plays Bill Denbrough, I think his name's Jade.
Stuttering Bill.
Yeah. I don't think he looked the same. Like that, he. If anyone looked the same, it was him, and maybe even the kid that plays Mike Hanlon.
Yeah.
I know Sophia Lillis, who plays Beverly. I know she's done some like different hairstyles, so like she looked a little bit, but I think they definitely probably did some de-aging with her as well. But the one thing I have to really commend this film on is the adult casting.
Yeah. See,
I thought they did a really good job.
I thought they did. I
most
thought
of
they
the
did a
cast
good
members.
job, but I think I like the kids better.
I liked the kids' interactions more, but I thought for let's cast based on the looks of the young kids, I thought they did a great job of that.
Okay, in terms of like the visuals of how everybody looked like. Yeah,
Of
I mean,
what they're
I mean,
gonna
yeah,
be like
I
when
mean,
they
going
get
down the line, I think you would even said to me like, you know, who they cast for Eddie Capsbrack was on point.
Oh, he was
And
great.
and I agree with that. Jessica Chastain, I think, looked the part. And even though I love Jessica Chastain, I almost feel like she was almost underwhelming in certain scenes. Like I didn't feel like she had enough emotional. I felt like she didn't bring enough emotional oomph to her character. It was like a little downplayed, and that's a little bit her style. But I think, you know, as an actress, like, you know, you gotta, you know, I don't know that character was like that, so I think she should have been a little bit more animated, I thought. But I tell you, you know who I didn't like? I didn't really care for Richie Tozier.
Really? You were in the minority.
Yeah, I must be.
Oh my God.
I almost felt like maybe not necessarily the actor, but maybe the characterization, because I almost felt like he was just like way too much of a depressing type. I almost want to say like not a douchebag, but he was just so like dour and sour, like, you know, like his life has been almost like a train wreck, even though apparently he is a promising comedian.
Yes.
It's almost like he's still like once he's off the stage, he's a mess, you know. And I don't feel like he should have been, like, because I think his character,
Well, he's been
as
hiding.
a kid,
He's hiding
was
who
one of
he
the.
is. He's been hiding who he is his entire life. That scene in the arcade,
Mhm.
like, clearly shows that Richie's gay.
Oh, you think?
Oh, absolutely. And I think he's been hiding that the entire time, which is why he's been like that. He's never really truly been himself.
Oh, I just thought he was. I didn't think he was hitting on that kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Is that undertone
I
in the
don't-
book?
I don't know if that's in the book, but I definitely think that's the play they were going for in this.
Interesting.
Like without a doubt.
And that would be a shame too, because it's like I felt that he was a really, as a kid, you know, even though he's full of the wisecracks, like I didn't feel like that was a facade. Like I just felt like he was like that type of, you know, bold kid who would say what he wants and make jokes, and, you know, like that to me is a strength.
I think he was using that as a strength, but I think he was also using it also to cover his own personal feelings as well.
Okay.
But I mean, that's the way that, to me, they're portraying it in the film. You know, that's how I interpreted that. I don't think that's the way it happens in the book, but I'm almost positive that's what they were going for.
And now you have Stan Uris, who really wasn't in the movie that much, so he almost doesn't really count.
No, he was only in there for like the beginning bit where he ends up, you know, spoiler, like we said before, he ends up killing himself, and warning.
He says he's killing himself to save everybody because he doesn't want to bring their chances down.
But you know what? He was absolutely right. I mean, he made the ultimate sacrifice, but at the same time, he probably did save them. Yeah. Because if he joined them and they weren't all together in what they were in their mission, he would have ended up getting them all killed.
Right.
And he didn't want that.
Now then you have Bill Denbrough as
James McAvoy. Yeah.
Who I think he was okay.
I thought he was good. I enjoyed him, especially like when he started to get the stutter. Again, I think it's amazing that actors are able to do that. I thought he did a really good job with that. Mm-hmm. And then the actor that plays Ben Hanscom.
And that is, I'm pretty sure that, you know, it is an aspect of the book where, you know, when he got older, he got
Oh, he's a transformation. Yeah,
Yeah,
transformation.
total transformation. He's trim, he's buff, he's good looking.
Yeah, he's a handsome guy.
You know,
He's
he's
a
smart, successful.
successful architect.
Yeah. You know, so I think I liked his character, even though I'm not familiar with that guy at all. And then the last one was Mike Hanlon,
who's Mustafa, Isaiah Mustafa. He actually used to do the Old Spice commercials. He was the guy that would like be up on the horse.
Oh, that's him. Okay,
Yeah,
I remember
that's
those
it, yeah.
commercials. That's a good commercial.
So,
okay. And I think he was okay. I think it gets a little goofy with him when he starts trying to convince everybody what's going on, and he's dealing with the research he's done with the Indian tribes.
well, you can definitely tell he's almost gone like a little crazy, like stir crazy,
Yeah.
like being stuck in that library.
Yeah, like
And
almost
has
like a
all that
hermit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's almost like he's just kind of like almost forgotten how to interact with all of them.
well, yeah. I mean, he's been stuck there holding the fort, basically waiting for 27 years to go by,
Yeah.
whereas everybody else went on and did their life. So it's like, I could see him like when he makes that call, like, what do you mean you're not coming? Like, I've been waiting 27 years to make this goddamn call. You guys better freaking come.
No,
Yeah, imagine if like nobody comes. He's like, what the hell was I doing here? Like,
you just wasted 27
you just
years.
wasted
of your life.
27 years of your life.
Yeah. No,
But I think they do get into they touch into the vein of his character where he does all the research into the history.
which I was happy that they brought that in
Yes.
because it really looked like they were making Ben do that in the first film when that was really all Mike. So I'm in the book anyway. So I'm glad to see that they made that correction for chapter
And
two.
that really is something that brings some really good texture and depth to the book. Is the book is not just about the kids and the adults. They do delve a lot into the past of Derry. So all these things that are happening, they bring in these like things and they talk about these things that happened in the past,
Right.
and they put it in a significant enough detail where it provides weight to the things that are happening now.
Yes.
Whereas, the things that are happening now have weight to begin with, but it adds weight to that.
It just adds more texture.
Yeah, and it gives it more like you realize it's what's going on has been going on. This is a cycle
For a long period of
time.
time.
Now I don't remember, like they said in the movie, like it came from outer space, a couple million years ago. I don't know that is.
I don't know if the time frame is completely accurate.
Because that's
but
a really freaking long
That's a long time. But I don't remember how accurate. I don't know if that's really accurate or not. But I do know that it was at least a few thousand years.
That's what I would have expected.
I kind of remember that. But I was interested to find, to know that they kind of went the whole cosmic route. Not entirely the way the book does it, because they don't mention, we don't get into the turtle.
Right.
Although there is another turtle Easter egg in there that we see at one point in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was really interesting that they did talk about like the whole tribe and everything, and their ritual that they had to try to like almost like capture the essence or the deadlights from Pennywise, and the fact that Mike knew all this and went there and kind of like that almost I felt like kind of started to drive him a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
After he experienced that.
Not for nothing, he probably, he was dealing with some like mind altering substances, drugs and stuff, like, Native American Indians,
I thought that was interesting too, because the Chinese restaurant in this film and the Chinese restaurant in the 1990 Stephen King's It film were very similar, I thought, with them laughing and drinking, and they're having like a grand old time, and Richie Tozer's telling a ton of jokes and like back and forth. And then all of a sudden they get to, what do you remember about Derry?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you remember what happened? And they all kind of like, a haze, like a fog going on. They don't really get it.
Yeah.
And then finally the fortune cookies come. And even in that one, the fortune cookies hatch and all like these weird things are going on with it. So it like that was very similar the way that they both played out.
Yeah, I really need to watch the the original TV movie again because I vaguely remember it. If I saw it once, I saw it a long time ago. And even though it's not that good, I think it's just good to see the story again in a different view.
Yeah.
Granted, it might be 3 or 4 or 5 hours of my life I may never get back, but it's okay.
The one thing I'm going to say, and I hope this makes sense, this film to me I don't think was nearly as scary as the first film. And like I said in the first film, I didn't consider the first film that scary. Just like, there was definitely, listen, like I said in the last one, I jumped in 2 spots in that film, so I definitely got scared a couple of times. This film didn't really get scared. There was definitely some suspenseful moments, but I almost think it's because you kind of knew what was probably going to happen with Pennywise. Like the scenes the scenes that are scary, the scenes where Pennywise is in it, like under the bleachers where he's got the little girl under there. You knew he was going to kill her. You knew that was going to happen. He was going to lure her in, especially as he's trying to get her closer and closer. Yeah. Like if that had happened in the first film, that might have had a different reaction because you don't know what to expect from him. But it's kind of like how, you go back to the original 80 slasher films with Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Halloween. The first movie of those franchises were all scary, like pretty good films.
Yeah.
And then the subsequent films, you kind of get the niche of the character a little bit, so you kind of almost know what to expect. And it doesn't scare you as much anymore.
Yeah, it's not fresh.
And I kind of felt like that with Pennywise. Bill Skarsgård, still fantastic. I still think he does a really good job in this, but I don't feel he was as scary as in the original.
I completely agree with that. Because I didn't think the first film was really that scary at all. It was a little scary, but not much.
Like we've seen scarier films, but there was definitely some suspenseful, scary.
And I think you're right. I think Chapter 2 is less so. I think there are less scenes with Pennywise. In all honesty,
I felt that too. I felt that. I mean, this was really about the adults. It was really about them.
It was 2 hours and 45 minutes of the adults and
not all of that, but I mean,
the adults and the kids,
chunk.
But like almost none of the flashbacks with the kids had Pennywise. I don't think any did.
No, it was
because it was all the flashbacks.
It was more about like when they were all getting their tokens, when they all had to go and get their tokens individually, like they have these flashbacks.
There was no Pennywise in any of the flashbacks.
And it's not. Well, he is. He's in the one with Ben Hanscom in the locker. So he's in there. Don't you remember that?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
So,
but not as much.
But it's also like it's going back on the kid's fears, like that's. I mean, the overall point of this whole thing is to stand up to your fear and face it.
Yeah.
Like that is the whole overall, theme of this story.
Right.
And again, with these throwback scenes, it's very similar to their going back to that.
And I think this is, at the end of the day, it's still one of my main criticisms of the film is that the book is terrifying. There are scenes of there are stories or fragments of that book that are just absolute horror, like scary as all hell. You can just imagine what these kids are seeing in the book, and even the adults, and it's really intense, and I just don't feel like they brought that level of horror or scared or intensity to the film, and maybe that was their point. They didn't want to make it that scary. But, I feel like, so, I mean, on its own level, it worked if you didn't know what it should have been. But, like, from a translation standpoint of, of the source material that you're adapting one of the scariest books ever made, and you're going to make a horror movie about it. Like, I felt like it did not pull those elements from the book, which is really one of the strongest parts of the book is all the, and it's not just one scene, it's all different,
it's throughout
the whole story, of these things of pure abject, horror and fear, like reading the book is as a reader,
right,
it's terrifying, and you don't get any of that in the movie, which is visual, which should be easier to scare you,
right,
and they don't.
The one scene that I actually did appreciate that they made, and they made it for the film specifically, is the funhouse scene. Because the funhouse scene is not in the book. That was specifically made for Bill.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, because I found that to be an odd scene logistically. Because you're at a carnival,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like for a significant part of that scene, apparently the only two people in the funhouse are McAvoy and the little
And the
kid.
kid, yeah.
And I'm like, I would have expected there to be like, it's like being the only two people on the roller coaster at Carnival. Like, no, the roller coaster's going to be full. The Ferris wheel is going to be full. Like whatever's going on,
Right.
there's going to be.
Well, obviously that's
may
been
not even be
before.
full, but even if half full, like that was empty.
Well, I think it was more obviously for dramatic effect. But
Yeah.
that
But I was
to
like,
me,
all right, where's everybody else?
I thought that was a good scene, especially like when they're going. Obviously, the whole thing is based on a clown. McAvoy's going through, and they got these clowns going back and forth that are swinging, and one of them ends up hitting him and like knocks him into the wall, which I laughed at that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then they finally get to the scene where it's like the hall of mirrors, and it's a maze, and he's basically tracking this kid down, and like you start seeing Pennywise in the background, and finally he comes face to face with the kid, and the kid's like, why are you following me?
Yeah, this poor freaking kid, man. It's like,
He bumps into
bumps him in the street, tells him to stay away. He's like, look, I just want to go to the carnival. And then he winds up chasing him. And like this kid really got the chef. He's just like,
And then all of a sudden he turns around and then you see Pennywise there. So the kid is basically trapped in between Pennywise and Bill, and there's glass that's separating them all. And then Pennywise, of course, breaks through the glass and kills the kid.
chomps this kid.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things and I think I kind of had this complaint about the first movie too, is I felt that a lot of the, horror scenes or like monster type scenes were very CG. It was almost like the visuals and the CG effects were just too clean. They were too obviously CG, I thought. And I think that played out most in the fortune cookie scene, where like the things that kind of popped out and grew.
Okay.
Like I'm like, these look like completely CG generated, like, things walking along the table. And I felt like, I don't know, to me it was like, I think it detracted a little bit because they looked very CG, very fake, and everything looked pristine. Nothing looked dirty or dusty or like cobwebby or like drippy. Everything was just kind of like solid fluid. I didn't like the look of that. And again, and I don't want to harp on this. Again, I'm going to come out and say the same thing that I said about Chapter 1. I'm going to say that it would have been better in black and white with sprinkles of color. The music could have been better, and I think they could have had better cinematography, better use of like close up and kind of odd angles, which works really well.
Oh, the music worked for me. I actually didn't have a problem with the soundtrack. I actually, I thought the scenes that they were trying to build up suspense, I thought they did a good job with that. The scenes where you kind of felt safe, I thought the music was appropriate and you kind of could tell. I didn't have a problem with that at all.
Oddly enough, I think my favorite scene in the whole movie that I thought like really worked well was when Ben Hanscom and Beverly were like separated in their one was in the bathroom and the other one was in like the clubhouse. Yeah. And then one started to fill up with blood, and the other one started to fill up with. I actually thought that scene worked very well. It was intense.
It was very suspenseful.
And dynamic and suspenseful, and that was to me, I think, the most enjoyable part of the movie. Even though it wasn't really, I don't know, there was an important part of the story to progress the story, but in terms of these two characters.
Well, just kind of showed their passion for one another.
Yeah,
it
brought them together. And I think that worked good because it pulled in that emotional element as well. But I think just in terms of a horror action type scene of suspense, I felt that was the strongest scene in the film. And I wish they just would have maybe brought that level of artistry and intensity throughout the entire film. Because 2 hours and 45 minutes is a long time. You can do a lot in a 2 hour and 45
But I
minutes.
just really felt like the movie went fast. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
the movie dragged. Like for me, like by
No,
the time we got to the end, it was like, oh wow, it's already over.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of surprised, and it was majority film because the credits I feel like weren't that long. Not like some of the normal credits we've sat through.
Yeah.
So to me, like I actually felt it moved pretty well. You know, I liked when they all went and we got to see the separation again when they had to go and get their tokens. That to me again like further develops each one of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
That I thought was good because I feel like you needed that. Like we needed to see them almost like on their own because they couldn't have been together the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought brought out a little bit more depth for
Well,
each of their
I think
characters.
that's why they needed more time in this film, because I think a lot of scenes in the first chapter, like they're all kind of together.
I'm right.
Yeah. Whereas in this movie, by design, they had to go, or they're separate
Yes.
ways, so you kind of had to tell the story of each.
The other scene that jumps to me right out of the book is the Paul Bunyan scene. So when Richie's sitting down,
Mhm. in the park.
Yeah, when Richie's in the park and the Paul Bunyan comes alive
Mhm.
and like starts coming after him. That I remember like right out of the book. I thought that was great. I did enjoy that scene.
Yeah. Now, one character that Henry Bowers.
Yes.
You know, I think he was good in the first movie.
I liked the kid in the first film.
I think he
I
was
thought he did a really good
he was
job.
okay in this movie. I just felt like I think in the book he was more. I think he was more important. Like he was more of a force to be reckoned with.
Yes. Like I felt that a lot from the first film, from that kid.
Yeah.
The adult version, I didn't feel that as much. It felt like he was like powered down.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't as like he was crazy, but he wasn't as
He wasn't as
forceful,
he
like,
wasn't
there's
as he wasn't as intimidating.
intimidating.
Like
Right.
he was almost like an idiotic jester type guy, as opposed to like an abomination, like
Which is probably what he should have.
yeah,
as the
because I know in the book he's portrayed as being like a really big,
Yeah.
strong guy with a lot of attitude and almost like a Neanderthal way of thinking. Like he just barrels through life punching things.
Now I'm pretty sure in the book, doesn't Mike Hanlon die?
Oh, see, I forget. I'm.
See now
I think.
so in this
I think more people died than just Stan Uris. So who died in the movie? Eddie died
well Eddie died in the movie. Eddie also dies.
in the book.
Eddie dies in the book down there also.
Okay.
Because it's I think the people that enter the well house, I think it's Beverly, it's Bill, Ben, and Richie,
Mhm.
and Eddie. Did I say
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they all go down.
But I don't think Mike's there. I think Mike gets. I want to say Mike gets killed by, or at least hurt
By Bowers.
by Bowers.
I have
That's
a,
when they kill, and then they kill
I have
Bowers.
a recollection of that too. Because again, it sounds stupid, like I tell you, it is one of my favorite books, but I haven't read it in 30 years. So it's like and it's a long freaking book. I forget the minutia. I literally read it 30 years ago. I just can't remember all the minutia from it.
Yeah,
I
there's
just
some of
remember
that.
the impressions of it, which is just I freaking loved it.
But I think the ending is we're trying to me, I was trying to visualize how were they going to do its true form. How are they going to do Pennywise's
Yeah,
true form?
because I think in the book they do refer to it like as almost like
Spider-like.
spider-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of came across that a little bit. And you actually, if you remember in the first in the first film when they actually go down to the well house and they all start fighting him at the end, he kind of does go into that form for a split second where he's got those long like those long pointy legs, and he's kind of like clawing at the ground. I don't know if it was at Mike. I think it was at Mike, and Mike kept like rolling away, but he was like clawing at him like that. Those legs seem very similar to what Pennywise's true form is. I liked seeing the crater that he came in. I thought that was really interesting. And of course, I think Eddie, kind of trying to, saving the day pretty much, I thought was great too. He was like this like scared kid the entire time, even as an adult. So when Pennywise almost kills Richie, and Eddie's in the corner just kind of like frozen, like can't move, he's just scared. And after it's all said and done, they all get pissed at him. And he's like, "I'm sorry, like I was scared.
I was scared.
What I couldn't do anything. I was frightened." And so now at the end, he takes the iron spear and he throws it right through Pennywise. I thought that was great.
And I think like the way the first movie ended with like the kids physically battling.
Yes.
I think played out a little better than the ending of this movie, where they weren't battling him, they were belittling him.
Yes. But I think that was that. But I
think that's what happened in the book too.
Yeah, I think
to a certain degree. But like to me, it like just in terms of like the two different scenes, I think watching the kids beat the hell out of it is more enjoyable than watching a bunch of adults make fun of it.
Yeah. No, I thought that was great. I agree with you. I think the ending to the first one was much better than this one. But I think they were also going along with how the book.
Right. No, it is
too.
what it is.
So
they were definitely. There are certain definitely constraints with the book with what they
so basically, they kind of just like they almost tease him. They basically tease Pennywise until he just becomes so small that they just reach in and they grab his heart and they crush it. I was actually shocked that like Pennywise even had a heart, because that to me was
unless it's just symbolic of his life.
Just symbolic, right? That to me was the only thing. But it does play. But the vision that they get with the Indian tribe saying that it has to obey the laws. Pennywise has to obey the laws of the form of the host or the form that he takes.
Right.
That is definitely in the book, and I'm pretty sure that comes from the turtle.
Okay.
I feel like the turtle says that to Bill, and that's how he figures that out.
There's one scene that I enjoyed. I leaned over and I said something to Chris. Is when there's a part where all the kids jump into the lake, and you look at the water in the lake, and it's like it's really green.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like this is a true modern day horror film. I think because and then all the kids died from green algae, being sickened from that. And I'm like, so I thought that was funny. Another thing I saw, and this was definitely not on purpose. This is just something that it just struck me odd. When Henry Bowers was in the hospital and he was watching the red balloon go by, and I don't think this was intentional on the filmmakers at all, because the book has the red balloons. The balloons are red. But watching the balloon go across just reminded me, if you've ever seen the movie The Red Balloon. Have you ever heard of that movie?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
There's a movie called The Red Balloon, and it's a French movie, and it's basically about this kid who, wherever town he is in France, this balloon follows him. And it's a red balloon. So, and it's actually an excellent movie. It's a really good movie for kids. It's it's considered to be like a 4-star classic, and it's not that long either. But it just, when I was watching it, I'm going like, wow, anytime I see that movie, The Red Balloon, I'm just not going to look at it the same. And then there was one scene in there, and I was curious if you picked up on it.
Okay.
That was definitely an homage to another film. There's a scene, and I'm going to see if you can figure out what I'm talking about, because I'm describing the scene. There's a scene where, like, I forget where they are, but like they had knocked the head off something, and the head was on the ground, and it started like legs started to sprout out of it, and it started to like walk around.
Okay.
almost like a head with spider legs or crab legs,
Yeah.
and like they were fighting it.
Oh, that was in the well house when they go back to it, right before they go down into it.
Yeah, in
That's when
this
Eddie
movie,
that's when Eddie gets scared and he stands in the corner because it's going after Richie.
yeah, it's like it's on his face.
Yeah.
When that monster is creating, like it's just like the things are coming out, it reminded me of the scene from John Carpenter's The Thing, where one of the guys, where the guy's head kind of falls off his body and it lands on the ground, and then all of a sudden it sprouts the legs and starts walking around. And in it, I think it's Richie Tozier's character. He says something like "you got" or something like that. That's exactly what is said in the thing,
right?
When that head with legs starts walking down the hallway away from everybody, and it's like trying to escape. One of the guy goes, "You gotta be free," and they blast him with the flamethrower. But I'm sitting there, like, as I'm thinking that, wow, this is really familiar. This is really like reminding me of that scene from The Thing. And all of a sudden, Richie Tozier says that line. I'm like, that's it. That was a direct, homage, tip of your hat to sci-fi classic John Carpenter's The Thing.
I didn't pick up on that until you said it.
Yeah.
Until you said it. That was good.
That was really funny. And I'm like, again, you sit there and say, you wonder, how many people in the movie theater recognize that. And you say, oh, well, so that movie, The Thing, is, my God, it's almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
It came out in 1980. It's an old movie, or 81, I forget. But it's you just things like that. I enjoyed that.
That's cool. I didn't pick up on that until you said it. But I think overall, I definitely liked it chapter 1 more than I liked chapter 2. I still enjoyed this movie.
You know what? I think so too.
I enjoyed it. I really had. I only had a few issues with this film. I really enjoyed the actors. I thought they were all great picks, and I really would like to eventually see them back to back.
Or like a It marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, one after the other.
I would like to see that and kind of just immerse myself in that universe for 5 hours.
Yeah, I think I I forget what I gave It chapter 1, but I think I gave it like 2.5 to 3 stars. Wasn't sure. I think It chapter 2 I only give 2.5. And I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at any newspapers to see what any other critics are giving it. Like, I don't know if it's being lauded or panned or being hailed.
It's not being panned. I think it's more critically positive than negative.
Yeah,
but
there's probably mixed.
There's definitely, but it's more positive than negative. Yeah. I know that.
And there's there's nothing wrong with the movie. It's just it's I don't know. I'm picky, but I felt it. I don't. I think it could have. I think it definitely could have been better. I think they could have. Because again, I think we feel like the director that they pulled for this film, this is probably the biggest thing he's ever done.
Oh, Andy Muschietti?
Yeah, and it's like, I almost wish this movie was in the hands of a more capable director that might have been able to tighten things up and, make some more creative or bolder decisions, and not have to, make an argument to the money men and just, go the straight and narrow, the safe path. I think I'm actually looking forward to seeing this movie being made again in 20 or 30 years.
I was just going to say, in like 20-something years from now, someone else will remake this movie.
So oddly enough, the original movie was not 27 years ago, right?
1990.
It would be funny it was 1990.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, it would be funny if they made this movie once every 27 years. That would be pretty funny.
Close. Well, the first film was 2017. It was 27 years.
Oh, it was? Yeah. Well, okay. Okay, so my prediction is going to be 27 years from 2017. So what would that be? 2034? I think there's going to be a new version, a new It movie in 2034.
That'd be pretty funny.
Oh, no. Or is it 44?
2034, 2740.
2044.
Yeah.
So hopefully Goody and Johnny Moe are still around in 2044. Oh my God, how old will I be? I'm not going to say. I should still be alive, and you definitely will be. So, like, episode 375
Yeah.
or 575, whatever it's gonna be, will be for the next version of it, and we can all be nostalgic. If you guys want to hear what we thought about it, chapter 1 and 2, go back a gazillion years ago to episodes 24 and 25.
Well, I think for episode 25, I think we're going to end up wrapping it up. I think that's pretty much our thoughts on this film.
Yeah, I think so. We kept it under an hour.
It's under an hour. I think what we're going to end up doing next might be Rambo: Last Blood. That might be the next film we go.
Oh
see.
yeah, I
That's
was
later this month.
thinking about what's coming. When does Joker come out?
October.
Oh, not till October. Okay.
That just won the
It
film
won,
festival.
in I don't know, either
It was-
Venice or
It was one of the European ones.
Palme d'Or or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget, but Cannes.
And what was it?
It was Cannes. It was Cannes. I
It was
forget.
one of the film
It was
festivals
Venice Film
overseas. I know
Festival,
that.
Cannes. So it's hopefully getting. Hopefully it's going to be one of these kind of like really artistic avant-garde type of diversion
I
type.
think that's what they're going for with
Yeah,
this.
and if it won something already, that's good. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
So I hope that works.
So we
But
can look forward to that.
Looking forward to Rambo: Last Blood. I saw Rambo: First Blood when it came out in the theater, so this is going to be a nice bookend.
Absolutely.
For that
Hopefully it's a
story.
bookend for Stallone. It should,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
should. I think you milked the cow. And the
Yeah,
calf
this
with
really
one.
should be the last First Blood movie. I don't think they can get away with another one. I honestly didn't know they were doing another one, but I'm actually excited that they are.
That's what. Hopefully it ends on a good note, guys. But I think with that we are going to say goodnight. So, with that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening on our podcast.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time with the
See
movies.
you guys later. And I'm going to finish this here.